Bible study. We are up to chapter 25 and 26 for this video. We are in the book of Genesis, and up to this point, I've just been reading the chapters. Of course, there are the study notes there that really help me paint the picture as I'm reading the Bible. Some verses are really easy to understand, and some verses definitely don't paint that picture. So again, my whole um, reason for sharing this is because I truly think that it helped me read and understand the Bible, and of course, just open up um, uh, the understanding of it. And I said, why not do what I'm doing to share with anyone else that is maybe struggling or not fully enjoying reading the Bible. And one thing I want to start moving forward is reflecting in this Bible study of, let's call it real life issues or problems that the Bible provides answers for. I know in my testimony, I openly share that, if anyone asks with a question, and anyone asks me for advice, or anyone questions anything, I would normally, of course, uh, help with that question as much as I could, or that I was capable of. And of course, in my testimony, I say that now I try to reference the Bible and try to guide him with what I think the Bible says to do. For this Bible study, let's look at what it kind of answers for us in these chapters. Uh, if you ever had any doubts on will God provide for me, if you, and of course we all do, but if we ever question why am I dealing with conflict with people, is God still with me after a loss? And another big one for this Bible study is, can I trust God in uncertain times? So I think this is something that adds to the Bible study. I'm still just doing, of course, recording. After Genesis, I hope to maybe go to live recordings where, if people, I think it opens up the chat, of course, and uh, you know, I'm not saying that I know everything, but maybe someone else would be able to answer questions that someone might have. I think this is really cool. We'll see how it grows just moving forward. But again, this slide right here just kind of, if you're dealing with any of these, the Bible does answer some of these questions in these chapters. And the last slide of the Bible study will have the verses where you can reflect on any of these issues. But let's get started with the Bible study. So Genesis 25:1, and again we're in the King James Version. So this verse is then again Abraham took a wife, and her name was Keturah. And then these study notes just kind of help, again, just it helped me paint the picture as we go from verse to verse. Kind of slows me down, helps me think a little bit more about the verse and how it goes with the previous verse or the next verse. But again, study notes is, after Sarah's death, Abraham marries again, and his wife's name is Keturah. I might be pronouncing that wrong. I don't remember looking up the correct pronunciation. Sometimes I do, of course, correct myself later. Again, with the chat capability, maybe I can be corrected on the spot and pronounce it correctly moving forward. But again, right now, this is a recording. Study note 2, this shows that Abraham's life continues and his family grows even more. It reminds us that God's plan continues through generations and new beginnings. Genesis 25:2. And she bare him Zimran and Jokshan and Medan and Midian and Ishbak and Shual. Oof. There we go. Definitely could use some help with some of those names. Keturah gives birth to several sons of Abraham. These sons become the beginning of new family lines and nations. This shows how Abraham's descendants continue to grow, fulfilling God's promise of many offspring. Genesis 25:3. And Jokshan begot Sheba and Dedan, and the sons of Dedan were Asron and Letushim and Leumim. This verse continues the family line of Abraham through Keturah. It shows how one generation leads to another, forming tribes and groups of people. These genealogies remind us that God's promise of many descendants is steadily being fulfilled. Genesis 25:4. And the sons of Midian, Ephah, and Epher, and Hannah, and Abidah, and Eldah. All these were the children of Keturah. This verse continues listing the descendants of Keturah and Abraham. These names represent the beginnings of different families and tribes. It shows how Abraham's family continues to grow, fulfilling God's promise of many descendants. Genesis 25:5. And Abraham gave all that he had unto Isaac. Abraham gives his inheritance to Isaac. This shows that Isaac is the chosen heir of God's promise. It confirms that the covenant will continue through Isaac's line. Genesis 25:6. But unto the sons of the concubines which Abraham had, Abraham gave gifts and sent them away from Isaac his son while he yet lived, eastward unto the east country. Abraham gives gifts to his other sons, but separates them from Isaac. Interesting. This ensures that Isaac remains the main heir of the promise. It shows intentional planning to keep God's covenant line clear and focused. Genesis 25:7. And these are the days of the years of Abraham's life which he lived, an 100 3 score and 15 years. Abraham lived 175 years. His long life reflects God's blessing and faithfulness. This verse begins to close the story of Abraham's life on earth. Genesis 25:8. Then Abraham gave up the ghost and died in a good old age, an old man and full of years, and was gathered to his people. Abraham dies peacefully at an old age. Full of years shows a long and complete life blessed by God. Gathered to his people points to being united with those who passed before him. So again, just kind of moving forward. I have read all the Genesis, and it doesn't mean that I fully comprehended everything, but I think moving forward with the potential of a live stream, maybe I would just be able to reflect more verse to verse, either just myself or with people that might have a chat. So again, maybe just an example would be this right here: Abraham dies. I think there's something to be said, just for me that someone who lived what we would call a life full of many years, whether it be good health. I don't think I'm kind of saying if someone was successful or not. They did their part on earth, um, hopefully with the blessing of God. And by that, I mean obviously doing the best they could to represent God, whether it be bringing people to um, Jesus, let's say, or just doing their part to show people the right way. And you could say some people do that without knowing God, um, just because their works. They believe in doing good works. Um, but yeah, so again, there's something to be said about someone I think that dies after living full life. Not that they wouldn't be missed by their loved ones, but of course, as opposed to someone who I might feel or you might feel um, didn't get the opportunity to live a full life for whatever reason that was. Um, Again, let's just continue with the Bible study. Genesis 25:9, and his sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah in the field of Ekron, the son of Zoar the Hittite, which is before Mamre. Isaac and Ishmael come together to bury their father Abraham. Abraham is buried in the cave of Machpelah, the same place as Sarah. This moment shows unity between the brothers and honors Abraham's legacy. So it's nice that everyone comes together for this uh, burial. Genesis 25:10, the field which Abraham purchased of the sons of Heth, there was Abraham buried and Sarah his wife. This confirms the land Abraham bought is now his family burial place. Again, both Abraham and Sarah are buried there together, which is a nice touch. It shows God's promise beginning to take root. Abraham owns a piece of the promised land. Genesis 25:11. And it came to pass after the death of Abraham that God blessed his son Isaac, and Isaac dwelt by the well Lahair. After Abraham's death, God continues his blessing through Isaac. This shows the promise did not end, it is passed down. Isaac lives near the well Laharoi, a place connected with God's past provision. Genesis 25:12. Now these are the generations of Ishmael, Abraham's son, whom Agar the Egyptian, Sarah's handmaid, bare unto Abraham. The focus shifts to the family line of Ishmael. Ishmael is also Abraham's son, born through Agar. This shows that even though Isaac is the chosen heir, Ishmael's descendants are also recorded and important in history. Genesis 25:13, and these are the names of the sons of Ishmael, by their names according to their generations. The firstborn of Ishmael, Nebajoth, and Kedar, and Adbeel, and Mibsam. Mibsam? This verse lists the sons of Ishmael, starting with his firstborn. These sons become leaders of tribes and nations. It shows that God also fulfilled his promise to make Ishmael into a great nation. Genesis 25:14, and Mishma and Dumah and Massa. This continues listing the sons of Ishmael. Each name represents a future tribe or group of people. It shows the steady growth of Ishmael's descendants, just as God had promised. Genesis 25:15. Hadar and Tema, Jetur, Naphish, and Kedemah. This continues the list of the sons of Ishmael. These names represent tribes that would come from his family line. It shows how God fulfilled his promise to make Ishmael's descendants numerous and established. Genesis 25:16. These are the sons of Ishmael, and these are their names by their towns and by their castles. 12 princes according to their nations. Ishmael's sons become 12 leaders, princes. They form organized groups with their own regions and settlements. This shows God's promise being fulfilled, making Ishmael's descendants into great nation. Genesis 25:17, and these are the years of the life of Ishmael, 137 years. And he gave up the ghost and died, and was gathered unto his people. Ishmael lived 137 years. His life comes to an end peacefully. gathered unto his people shows he joined those who passed before him. Genesis 25:18. And they dwell from Havilah unto Shur, that is before Egypt, as thou goest towards as Azria, and he died in the presence of all his brethren. Ishmael's descendants lived in a wide region stretching across several areas. This shows they became a large and spread out people group. His life ends with his family established and present among many nations. Genesis 25:19, and these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begot Isaac. The focus shifts now from Ishmael's line to Isaac's family line. Isaac is clearly identified as Abraham's promised son. This begins a new section in the Bible showing what happens through Isaac's descendants. Genesis 25:20, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Syrian of Paddan Aram, the sister to Laban, the Syrian. Isaac marries Rebekah at the age 40. Rebekah comes from the family line of Bethuel and Laban. This shows the continuation of Abraham's family through Isaac's marriage. Genesis 25:21. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was barren. And the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived. Isaac prays to God because Rebekah could not have children. God answers his prayer, and Rebekah becomes pregnant. This shows the power of prayer and how God provides in his time. This one's definitely something you want to highlight. Um, I know this is a big prayer request and it was answered, but not to be lost is, again, just prayer could involve anything. It could be a small prayer or it can be a big prayer like this. And I guess it'd be like you can't expect something to happen if you don't pray for it. This shows the power of prayer and how God provides in his time. So in other words, we want it now, but you know, in God's time. Pray, pray, pray. Let God provide in his time. Genesis 25:22. And the children struggled together within her, and she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquiry of the Lord. Rebecca feels the baby struggling inside her. She is confused and seeks answers from God. This shows that in difficult or confusing moments, we should go to God for understanding. Amen. Genesis 25:23. And the Lord said unto her, two nations are in thy womb, and two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. God tells Rebecca that she is carrying two nations. The twins will become two different peoples with different paths. God reveals something surprising. The older will serve the younger, showing that his plans don't always follow human expectations. Mm. Genesis 25:24. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. Rebecca gives birth to twins just as God said. This confirms God's message about two nations. It sets the stage for the lives of the two sons who will play important roles in the story. Genesis 25:25. And the first came out red all over like an hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. The first twin is born and named Esau. His appearance is described as red and hairy, which is how he gets his name. He is the older brother, but God already said the younger would have a special role. Genesis 25:26. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. and Isaac was threescore years old when she bare them. The second twin is born holding Esau's heel and is named Jacob. His name is connected to the idea of grasping or following closely. Isaac is 60 years old at this time, showing how long they waited for children. God's timing, right? Genesis 25:27. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man, dwelling in tents. The twins grew up with very different personalities. Esau became a skilled hunter and enjoys the outdoors. Jacob lives a quieter life at home, showing a contrast between the two brothers. Genesis 25:28. And Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his pension, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Isaac favors Esau while Rebekah favors Jacob. This shows family favoritism, which can lead to conflict. It sets the stage for future tension between the brothers. And I'm just gonna do some real quick as requested. Alright, alright. Genesis 25:28. And Jacob saw the pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint. Jacob is cooking stew while Esau returns from the field very hungry. Esau is described as faint, showing his physical need. This moment sets up an important decision that will affect both brothers. Genesis 25:30. And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same bread pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. Esau urgently asked Jacob for some of the stew. His hunger makes him impatient and focused only on the moment. The name Edom, meaning red, comes from this event. Genesis 25:31. And Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright. Jacob makes a bold request for Esau's birthright. The birthright meant special inheritance and leadership in the family. Jacob sees an opportunity, but it sets up a very serious decision for Esau. Genesis 25:32. And Esau said, behold, I am at the point to die, and what profit shall this birthright do to me? Do to me. Esau exaggerates his hunger, thinking he might die. He shows that he values immediate relief more than future blessings. He questions the value of his birthright instead of respecting it. Genesis 25:33. And Jacob said, swear to me this day. And he sware unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob. Jacob asks Esau to make it official with an oath. Esau agrees and trades his birthright for immediate food. This shows a serious decision made quickly without thinking about long-term consequences. I'm sure we've all done that. Genesis 25:34. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drink and rose up and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. Esau receives the food he wanted and quickly moves on. He treats his birthright as something unimportant. This shows a poor choice where immediate desire was valued more than lasting using. So obviously this is a big part of the chapter, and I'm just thinking as I'm reading this. Remember, God said the older will serve the younger. Um, so again, God knows what's going to happen, right? And as small as this seems, right? I mean, Esau feels like he's a warrior, right? He's a hunter. If you ever had like a runner's high or whatnot, you feel like it's you against the world and nothing could stop you. So, I mean, I can see if I'm Esau, what's this birthright to me? I control what I get, what I want. And of course, Jacob, he doesn't know, right? No one's told him that. Um, I don't want to say he's the chosen one, but Esau will serve him, right? Let's just keep. Wait. Okay, so that concludes 25. Genesis chapter 26, 1. And there was a famine in the land, beside the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went unto Abimelech, king of the Philistines, unto Gerar. A famine comes again, similar to the one during Abraham's time. Isaac faces a test, just like his father did. He goes to Gerar, where Abimelech is king, setting up the next part of the story. Genesis 26, 2. And the Lord appeared unto Isaac, and said, Go not down into Egypt. Dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of. God speaks directly to Isaac and gives him clear direction. He tells him not to go to Egypt, even though that might seem like the logical choice during famine. This shows the importance of following God's guidance, even when it goes against what seems natural. Genesis 26, 3. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee, and will bless thee, for unto thee and unto thy seed I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abraham thy father. God tells Isaac to stay in the land despite the famine. He promises his presence and blessing. God confirms that the same promise given to Abraham will continue through Isaac. Genesis 26, 4. And I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of heaven, and will give unto thy seed all these countries. And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. God promises Isaac many descendants like the stars. He also promises land and influence to his future family. Most importantly, all nations will be blessed through his line, pointing to God's bigger plan. Genesis 26, 5. Because that Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. God explains why the blessing continues, because Abraham obeyed him. Abraham followed God's commands faithfully. This shows that obedience to God matters and has lasting impact across generations. Genesis 26, 6. And Isaac dwelt in Gerar. Isaac obeys God and stays in Gerar. Even during a famine, he chooses to follow God's instruction. This shows simple but important obedience, doing exactly what God says. Genesis 26, 7. And the man of the place asked him of his wife, and he said, She is my sister, for he feared to say, She is my wife. Please, said he, the man of the place should kill me for Rebekah, because she was fair to look upon. Isaac becomes afraid and lies about Rebekah. He says she is his sister because he fears for his life. This shows that even faithful people can struggle with fear and make wrong choices. Genesis 26, 8. And it came to pass when he had been there a long time that Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out at the window and saw, and behold, Isaac was sporting with Rebekah his wife. King Abimelech observes Isaac and Rebekah together. Their behavior makes it clear they are not just siblings, but husband and wife. This reveals the truth that Isaac had tried to hide. Genesis 26, 9. And Abimelech called Isaac and said, Behold, of a Surety she is thy wife, and how saddest thou, she is my sister. And Isaac said unto him, Because I said, Lest I die for her. Abimelech confronts Isaac after discovering the truth. Isaac admits he lied because he was afraid for his life. This shows how fear can lead to wrong decisions, even for those who follow God. Genesis 26:10, and Abimelech said, What is this thou hast done unto us? One of the people might lightly have lain with thy wife, and thou shouldest have brought guiltiness upon us. Abimelech, Abimelech rebukes Isaac for his actions. He explains that Isaac's lie could have caused serious sin and consequences. This shows that our actions can affect others, not just ourselves. Genesis 26:11, and Abimelech charged all his people, saying, He that toucheth this man or his wife shall surely be put to death. Abimelech protects Isaac and Rebekah with a strict command. Despite Isaac's mistake, God still provides protection. This shows God's grace. He cares for his people even when they fail. Genesis 26:12, Then Isaac sowed in that land and received in the same year an hundredfold, and the Lord blessed him. Isaac plants crops even during a famine, an act of faith. God blesses him with an abundant harvest, 100 times more. This shows that when we follow God, He can bless us even in difficult situations. Oof, that's hard to do, right? That's hard to do. Genesis 26:13, and the man waxed great and went forward and grew until he became very great. Isaac continues to grow in success and influence. His prosperity increases step by step. This shows an ongoing blessing from God, not just a one-time event. Genesis 26:14, for he had possession of flocks and possession of herds and great store of servants, and the Philistines envied him. Isaac becomes very wealthy with animals and servants. His success becomes noticeable to others. The Philistines begin to envy him, showing how blessing can sometimes lead to opposition. Genesis 26:15, for all the wells which his father's servants had digged in the days of Abraham his father, the Philistines had stopped them and filled them with earth. The Philistines blocked the wells that Abraham's servants had dug. This was a way to hurt Isaac's livelihood since water was very important. It shows how envy can lead people to act against others. Genesis 26:16, and Abimelech said unto Isaac, Go from us, for thou art much mightier than we. Abimelech asked Isaac to leave because he has become very powerful. Isaac's blessing makes others feel threatened. This shows that success can sometimes lead to rejection or separation from others. Genesis 26:17, and Isaac departed thence and pitched his tent in the valley of Gerar and dwelt there. Isaac obeys and peacefully leaves the area. He settles in the valley of Gerar instead of arguing or fighting. This shows humility and wisdom, choosing peace over conflict. Genesis 26:18, and Isaac digged again the wells of water which they had digged in the days of Abraham his father, for the Philistines had stopped them after the death of Abraham, and he called their names after the names by which his father had called them. Isaac reopens the wells that his father had dug. He restores what was lost instead of starting from scratch. This shows honor for his father's legacy and continuing what God had already started. Genesis 26:19, and Isaac's servants digged in the valley and found there a well of springing water. Isaac's workers dig in the valley looking for water. They discover a fresh, flowing water source. This shows that God continues to provide even after setbacks. Genesis 26:20, and the herdman of Gerar did strive with Isaac's herdman, saying, the water is ours. And he called the name of the well Ezek, because they strove with him. Conflict arises over the well that Isaac's servants found. The people of Gerar argue that the water belongs to them. Isaac names the well Ezek, meaning dispute, showing the tension he experienced. Genesis 26:21, and they digged another well and strove for that also, and he called the name of it Sitnah. Isaac's servants dig another well. This time again, there is conflict and opposition. The well is named Sitnah, meaning opposition, showing continued resistance. Genesis 26:22, and he removed from thence and digged another well, and for that they strove not, and he called the name of it Rehoboth, Rehoboth, Rehoboth. And he said, for now the Lord hath made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land. Isaac moves again and digs another well. This time there is no conflict. Peace is finally found. He names it Rehoboth, 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 meaning room, recognizing that God has made space for him to grow and thrive. Genesis 26:23, and Isaac went up from thence to Beersheba. Isaac travels to Beersheba, another important place in his family history. He continues moving under God's guidance rather than staying where there was conflict. This shows a pattern of peaceful movement and trust in God's direction. Genesis 26:24, and the Lord appeared unto Isaac the same night, and said, I am the God of Abraham thy father. Fear not, for I am with thee, and will bless thee, and multiply thy seed for my servant Abraham's sake. God appears to Isaac and reassures him not to be afraid. He confirms that the same promise given to Abraham continues through Isaac. God promises his presence, protection, and blessing. Amen. Genesis 26:25, and Isaac built an altar there and called upon the name of the Lord and pitched his tent there. And there Isaac's servants digged a well. Isaac represents, Isaac responds to God by worshiping and building an altar. He calls on God's name, showing gratitude and faith. He settles there and continues life with his servants, including digging a well for water. Genesis 26:26. Then Abimelech went to him from Gerar, and Zah, one of his friends, and Pico, the chief captain of his army. King Abimelech comes to visit Isaac. He brings important leaders with him. This shows a shift. Isaac is now respected and recognized by others. Genesis 26:27, and Isaac said unto them, wherefore come ye to me, seeing ye hate me, and have sent me away from you? Isaac questions why they have come after previously sending him away. He remembers how they had pushed him out before. This shows his surprise and caution for their sudden visit. Genesis 26:28, and they said, we saw certainly that the Lord was with Isaac. And we said, let there be now an oath betwixt us, and even betwixt us and thee, and let us make a covenant with thee. Abimelech and his men recognize that God is clearly with Isaac. They want to make peace through a covenant agreement. This shows that God's blessing on Isaac was visible to others. Genesis 26:29, that thou wilt do us no hurt, as we have not touched thee, and as we have done unto thee nothing but good, and have sent thee away in peace. Thou art now the blessed of the Lord. Abimelech asked Isaac to promise peace between them. He reminds Isaac that they did not harm him when he left. They clearly recognize that Isaac is blessed by God. Genesis 26:30, and Isaac made them a feast, and they did eat and drink. Isaac responds with kindness and hospitality. He prepares a meal to share with Abimelech and his men. This shows a peaceful heart and willingness to build relationships instead of conflict. Genesis 26:31, and they rose up betimes in the morning and swear one to another, and Isaac sent them away, and they departed from him in peace. Both sides make a peace agreement, covenant. Isaac and Abimelech part ways respectfully. The situation ends in peace instead of conflict, showing God's blessing over Isaac's life. Genesis 26:32, and it came to pass the same day that Isaac's servants came and told him concerning the well which they had digged, and said unto him, We have found water. Isaac's servants bring good news about a new well. They find water, something very important for life and survival. This shows God's continued provision and blessing on Isaac. Genesis 26:33, and he called it Sheba. Therefore, the name of the city is Beersheba unto this day. Isaac names the well Sheba, meaning oath or seven. This connects back to the peace agreement made earlier. The place becomes known as Beersheba, marking peace and God's provision in that region. Genesis 26:34, and Esau was 40 years old when he took to wife Judith, the daughter of Beeri the Hittite, and Bashemath, the daughter of Elon the Hittite. Esau marries two women from the Hittites. This shows he is making life choices independently from his family's covenant line. These marriages will later bring difficulty and sorrow to Isaac and Rebekah. Genesis 26:35, which were a grief of mine unto Isaac and Rebekah. Esau's marriage brings deep sadness to his parents. Isaac and Rebekah are troubled by his choices. This shows how family decisions can affect everyone emotionally. Alrighty, and we completed Bible study chapters 25 and 26 on Genesis. And if you can recall to our real life, real answers, will God provide? Genesis 26, verses 12 to 13 covers that. Uh, why conflict? If you have questions regarding why conflict, Genesis 26, 19 through 21. After loss, is God still with me? Genesis 25, 11. Can I trust God? Genesis 26, verse 2 to 3 and 24. Uh, feel free to rewind and just go over those verses and open up your heart to God's word and let it answer for you any of these questions that you might have. Until the next Bible study, goodbye.